This is Jeremy from PowerVira. A little while ago I posted a video on how to use Postman to create a custom connector to use in Power Apps. I created this little application that goes out to DALL-E and requests an image to be generated and then returns the URL of that image. It calls the API, gets the URL back and displays the image. We often watch all the demonstrations and marketing information about PowerPlatform and how easy it is to do things. And in many cases that's true. It does, however, present challenges when you put on your information security and operations hat. Do I really want end users going and creating connectors to random APIs? How do I manage that and make sure that the business is safe and that people don't inadvertently do things that they shouldn't? Fortunately, Microsoft have the data loss prevention policies that you can apply for PowerPlatform. Now that we can create multiple developer environments inside PowerPlatform, it makes it much easier for you to test how these behave and make sure that it works in the way that you want. The guidance for environment strategy with PowerPlatform is that the default environment be renamed as a personal productivity environment. And the suggestion is that you've got a limited number of Microsoft first-party connectors in there, and custom connectors are not allowed. This is my thoughts anyway. I don't really want anybody creating custom connectors without some input from IT in terms of governance. So this will allow people to create small flows and applications that talk to SharePoint and those sorts of things with a minimal amount of risk. It also means that if people want to create more complicated applications, then they can talk to IT and we can then look at providing access to a controlled environment. With controlled environments, you'll probably have dev, test and production. You'll have some sort of mechanism for promoting applications between environments, and you'll apply all the appropriate quality control to make sure that those applications are fit for purpose. In these controlled environments, you probably have a broader set of business connectors, including things like Dataverse. And once again, I would suggest that custom connectors are not allowed unless they're being served by Microsoft API Management. I'm going to talk a little bit about API Management in a minute and why you might want to consider using that. And then the third classification for environments is teams. So once again, I suggest a limited set of first-party connectors, including Dataverse, and then again, only custom connectors that are published by API Management. In case I forget to mention it, one of the benefits of using API Management with Teams environments is that they don't require a premium license. So there could definitely be some benefits in terms of licensing by using API Management with Teams environments. So let's have a quick look at the DLP policies. In the Microsoft Power Platform Admin Center for this example, I've created two policies, the default policy and the governed environments policy. If I look at the default policy, I've chosen just a very small subset of Microsoft connectors to be in the business category. There are some other connectors in the non-business category because they're not blockable. So there's a certain set of connectors that you can't block. Everything else I've blocked, because I don't want people in the default environment connecting to all these other different services where I can't have any control over what's happening. For custom connectors, I can apply a pattern. So I've basically said that everything is blocked. So there are no custom connectors. And for the scope, I've excluded certain environments. So it's going to apply to my personal productivity environment, but I've excluded it from all my controlled environments. But that also means that if new environments are created by default, this policy will cover those. So what that means is if I go to my default environment and I try and run my image generator app, which I've imported previously, then I'm going to get an error saying that the app doesn't comply with the DLP policy, which is exactly what I wanted. If I look in my development environment, I've got a different policy applied. So this is part of my governed environments policy. So this time I've got a lot more business connectors defined. I'm still blocking all these other connectors. But for custom connectors now, what I've done is say that anything that comes from my API management URL should be in the business group. Everything else should be blocked. What does that mean? So if I just try and use my imported image generator application again, it's still not going to work because it's using a custom connector which is not in my API management. So in API management, I'm going to create the API to talk to DALL-E. I'm going to use an OpenAPI file that I've created previously, and I'll change the name to be APIM, give it a suffix, and click create. So in my API now, I can add policies for this. I can add all sorts of policies in terms of being able to throttle the API, in terms of doing transformations, security. So what I'll do is I'll just add a policy for the inbound processing, and I need to set a header, and in there I need to put the authorization, add a value, and in this case it's going to be bearer space and the token that I get from OpenAI. So I'll save that, and now if I test this, I should get back my URL. In the settings for the API, I can add it to a product, and this is how I'm going to get my subscription key. So let me just add it to the unlimited product for now, and I'll save that. And now the question is, how do I get this into PowerPlatform? The tooling inside API Management allows me to just click on the API and say Create Power Connector. Now I can say Create Connector, choose the API that I want to publish, choose the environment that I want to publish it to. So I want it to go to my dev environment, and I'm going to give it a display name of APIM OpenAI Images. Now if I go back to Power Apps and go to my Dev1 environment and look in Custom Connectors, I'll see APIM OpenAI Images. Now if I go back to my app, I'll remove the old connection, and I want to add a new one. Now I need to paste in that subscription key. So now I've got a lot of red X's next to my app because I've changed the connection. So I'll just make sure it runs in preview. So now in my app that I've replaced the connector with the one from API Management, don't forget to publish the app once you've finished. If I go back now and try to run the app, I can now run it and it passes the DLP restrictions. So just to summarize, if you follow the guidelines for setting up Power Platform environments and implementing DLP policies, then you probably don't want people creating custom connectors in your default environment, and you may also not want them creating custom connectors in an uncontrolled way in your other environments. If you use API Management, it gives you a way of controlling access to external APIs and being able to govern them in a centralized way, and then you can use your DLP policies to determine environments those connectors can be used in. Thanks for watching. If the information was useful, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.